Hello, welcome to our next webinar. I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes late starting due to a technical issue. Can I introduce myself first of all for those who don't know me? My name's Joan Roberts and I'm manager of the School Health Research Network. It's the third webinar that we've run for schools, and the previous one looking at health priorities for schools and how might schools influence suicide and self-harm. And those are up on our webinar, on our website rather, for you to follow at your leisure if you've missed those. If I can welcome, first of all, everybody who's joining us online or on the phone. So we've got school staff from Network Schools. We've also got Healthy Schools staff, and we'd also like to welcome for the first time some of the National Quality Award verifiers. So that's a good audience to have. So thank you very much for joining us. In the room, out of sight of you, we have Mike Rudd, who is our IT person. So if I look to my left in panic, that's because I need his help. We also have Gillian Hewitt and Cheryl Briscombe from the team, they're joining us here too. But if I could introduce to you Hannah Littlecott, who's sitting by my side, who is going to present today's webinar on Good Breakfast, Good Grades, ? And Hannah is a colleague here in Decipher, and she published some very interesting research findings before Christmas, and the evaluation was picked up all across the media, so you may recognise her because she was interviewed by quite a few television and radio shows, and it was the data was even picked up by Chris Evans on Radio 2. So Hannah, welcome, and thank you so much for presenting today. So if I hand over to you. So if we just sorry, I'm looking at Mike in panic because we can't move. Oh, there we are. Yeah. Right, there we are. Okay. Yeah, can we move it on? Sorry, yeah, there we are, yeah. Next, there we are, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, Joan. Okay, today as Joan said, I'm going to be talking through my research on the link between breakfast consumption in primary schools and educational outcomes. So, as you know, many school children, particularly those from poorer families, don't eat breakfast every day. And eating breakfast has been consistently linked with health outcomes and cognitive functioning, such as memory tests and things like that. But the evidence of direct links with educational outcomes is mixed. So exploring this link might help to improve buy-in from both local schools and central and local government into health improvement. So I'm going to go through the study that we did, and I'm going to talk you through firstly the aims, then the methods used, and the analysis that we did and the results we found. And finally, we'll have a discussion of the results of how this research can be applied to schools, secondary schools in Wales.
And I'm just going to stop you there, Hannah, because I missed out the most important bit, which is just to tell those of you who've never joined a webinar before how to join us interactively. And on the left-hand side, there's a chat bar, a green bar to the left that says chat. If you want to press on that, and then you can type any questions that you have. We will unmute some the microphones towards the end for some discussion if anybody wants to speak. And to do that, you press on the interact button, which is at the top of the screen, and then you put the hands up sign, and we'll know that you want to speak. So Cheryl kindly has just typed something in. So and then within the middle, we're going to do a bit of an interactive thing, but we'll talk about that later.
Another reply there from Catherine.
Hi, Kate.
Okay, so moving on to the aims then. So the study aimed to look at the link between breakfast and educational outcomes. So was there a link between eating breakfast and summative teacher assessments and did this differentiate between healthy and unhealthy breakfasts. And the methods used were, we had 111 primary schools in Wales, 58 from communities first areas, so more deprived areas, and 1 year 5 and 1 year 6 class participated from each school. And this led to 4,350 students taking part at baseline and 4,472 at 12-month follow-up. So it was quite a large study. So the measures we used were to measure deprivation. We looked at individual level free school meal entitlement. So was each individual in the study entitled to a free school meal? We also looked at this at the school level. So what percentage in each school were eligible for free school meal entitlement? We then used a dietary recall questionnaire. So students reported what they'd eaten for breakfast that morning and all day the day before data collection took place. And so from that, we used the proportion of children that were eating less than 2 breakfasts over 2 days to indicate breakfast skipping, and the number of healthy items consumed for breakfast and the number of unhealthy items consumed for breakfast. And that's what I'll be focusing on today. And then we also then linked this to data on summative teacher assessments. So in terms of the statistical analysis, we used the whole sample analyses using follow-up data on dietary behaviour. So the dietary assessments took place 6 months before, or around 6 months before, the summative teacher assessments. For the results, there were significant links found between summative teacher assessments results and the gender and individual level free school meal entitlement and school level free school meal entitlement. So these factors were individually linked to summative teacher assessments. Then when we added eating breakfast and eating a healthy breakfast to the statistical models, this changed the results, so that indicated that these factors were also linked. But however, when we added an unhealthy breakfast, that showed it was not linked to summative teacher assessment results. So these results show a link between the eating healthy breakfast items and academic outcomes in Welsh primary school children. And there are a few possible explanations for this link. So it may be that hunger or general hunger among children of a low socioeconomic status, or it could be that eating breakfast is linked to an overall better diet. It could also be that a low glycemic index in a healthy breakfast may mean that energy is released slowly throughout the morning, and so concentration levels are improved. And another possible explanation is that breakfast may be linked to the maintenance of a healthy weight, and it could also provide energy for increased physical activity throughout the day, and thus increase concentration. So major strengths of the study include the fact that there was a very large sample size and a longitudinal design. I haven't actually gone into that today, but yeah. And then also the use of concrete measures of educational attainment. So in previous studies, they've tended to use acute measures of cognitive functioning, so like memory tests, such as getting children to eat a specific breakfast and then a couple of hours later testing their memory or cognitive functioning with puzzles, or and this tended to be with very small, much smaller sample sizes. The limitations include that association doesn't actually improve causation. So just because we've shown this link, we can't say that eating a breakfast definitely leads to better results, but the two are linked, so further research needs to be done in this area, really. And the dietary measure, obviously, diet is very complex, and to get a very detailed measure of diet, it's very expensive and labour intensive, often involving the weighing of food. So this was a short recall questionnaire, but it has been validated against other more intensive measures. So to conclude, we've previously shown that the Welsh Government breakfast scheme reduced breakfast skipping for children from poorer backgrounds, but not overall. So really, there's a good reason to believe that if breakfast schemes can reach the right children, i.e. those not getting a good breakfast at home, there may be educational benefits for this. So I really want to emphasise that showing the links between health and educational attainment could really help to align health improvement with the core business of schools. So, for example, we could work with regulatory bodies to improve the importance placed upon health for ESTIN inspections. So future research that follows on from this should look to explore why this link exists and understand whether increases in breakfast eating are achieved by breakfast schemes are sufficiently large to affect educational outcomes. So that the current study wasn't looking at whether the breakfast scheme was linked to educational outcomes. It was looking at just whether eating breakfast at all was linked to this. We also need to explore this link in secondary schools. We'll go on to talk about this further now. So really, a study like this, which had such great kind of exposure in the media and will hopefully influence policy, really shows the importance of schools taking part in research like this. The fact that it had a large sample size really made it more effective and more generalisable and more likely to impact policy. So as Joan mentioned earlier, it was widely reported in the news in Wales and England and worldwide, and it was debated in Welsh Government and put forward for debate in the House of Commons. So just to reinforce that it's...
Well, I think at that point, Gillian has just typed in to say that, obviously in this instance there was a large sample size, and the student surveys that we're asking School Health Research Network schools to undertake, as well as ensuring that they get data back into school, will also mean that in any studies that we have over 35,000 students. So it's a very strong basis for sort of future health and wellbeing research. So that's quite a nice link, I think, with what we're doing.
And the great thing about SHERN is that schools get that data to use and plan their own health improvement activities within their schools.
Yeah, so win-win.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's, before we move on, if anybody wanted to type any questions for Hannah just on her study. We're going to look at how it links a bit more with secondary schools, and there might be other questions at the end that when we unmute the microphones. But if anything comes to you as we move forward, then do type up some questions. I mean, I just had one question before we go on to this task, and that was, you mentioned sort of healthy food items. How did you categorize what were the sorts of foods that meant that they were healthy food choices?
Yeah, so healthy foods were categorized as those that reported eating bread, cereal, fruit or dairy in their breakfast.
Right, okay. Oh, well, that's, yeah, so that's interesting. So I'm going to share what the Food in Schools measure is encouraging school and making sure that schools provide for breakfast. So there's that link there that we can talk through at the end. So so no questions have appeared as yet. So they're all saving the questions. So Mike, I think, is going to put up. There's we have a facility, so we thought we should use it for you to vote as to what percentage, and we're going to go for year 7 and year 11, so there'll be 4 little screens will come up. What percentage of year 7 girls do you think eat breakfast every school day? So moving into the secondary school arena, perhaps you'd like to vote as to what you think is the most likely. So we're getting some percentages there coming forward. So the percentage of schools that eat breakfast every school day, we can reveal. Shall we give the answers at this point, and then we can reveal them on a chart? What's the best thing to do? Perhaps we've got our votes, so maybe we could say, Hannah, do you want to say how many year 7? Okay. Yeah, that was that one there. Is it? Yeah.
Yep, that's not on there.
Do you think eat breakfast every school day? So yeah, so year 7 boys, and yeah. So it's
year 7 girls.
Yes,
year 7 girls.
Oh, sorry, girls. Sorry.
65% of year 7 girls actually report that they eat breakfast every school day.
Okay, so
and this was from the 2013 health behaviour in school age children data.
Okay, so we'll ask the next one. So now boys, I'm obsessed about boys. So let's vote to see whether we think boys would be a higher percentage or not. So it's just settling down. So okay, so yes,
38%. So 6 votes for 50%. So that's the most popular one, but can actually reveal it at 70%.
Yeah, so a little.
But this is primary school, remember? So it's going to be slightly higher. Oh no, sorry.
These are secondary schools, so we'll show you the full figures shortly. So year 11, let's think whether that might have gone up or down. I suppose that's the thing that we're trying to see. So yeah, so the 4 and 65. Yeah, okay, so oh no, still moving. Yeah.
Okay, so the most popular vote was 44% with 6 out of 12 votes, and we can reveal that's actually correct. Well done. So obviously it really kind of falls from year 7 to year 11.
And then the last.
So the last one then.
So the boys.
So what percentage of year 11 boys eat breakfast?
Okay, has it settled down?
Okay, so the most popular there was 5 out of 13 votes for 60%, and that's actually right as well.
Very impressive. So we can show a slide that just shows when. So that just. Yeah. There we are.
Okay. Yep. So as you can see, both males and females decline from year 7 to year 11, but there's actually a larger decline for girls than boys. So I also wanted to show you the percentage of pupils who report never eating breakfast on a school day. And in year 7, as you can see, this is very low. So around 7% for boys and around 12% for girls, which still isn't ideal, but it's much lower than in year 11, where boys have increased to around 18% and girls even higher to 28%, but in year 10 it seems to be even higher than that. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Kate has just said, yes, it's a shock for girls, isn't it? That's a real thing. But and also that year 10, so I wonder if something happens in year 10 where maybe they're going into exams or something and they think, well, maybe I should eat breakfast. So it sort of peaks, doesn't it, at year 10, which is interesting. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And thank you for voting.
So you can obviously see that it's a very big problem in secondary schools. So although the research I presented is on primary schools, it's a problem that we really need to tackle in secondary schools. So someone's just asked a question here. This is very interesting data. Do we know the reason for the decline in rates of breakfast consumption as pupils progress through school? I don't know for certain. One reason could be that as they get older, they're obviously they have more autonomy from their parents. Parents have less control over them, so they kind of do what they want or have less sleep and want to lie in. So but obviously it's an area for future research, but
that's right. No, I mean, it's always, I think that's that's why the School Health Research Network was set up, was that obviously as we move forward, there will become sort of key questions that we need to answer, and maybe that is a key question that we should be considering. And
obviously those from a lower socioeconomic status and more deprived pupils are less likely to eat breakfast as well. So that's another interesting area for research and to consider when implementing health improvement activity in schools as well.
We're certainly going to be looking at one of the network schools. There's a potential that there might be a bit of research into looking at sort of setting up a breakfast. So obviously that's going to be something that we'll be able to hopefully report back on if that comes to fruition. So that's quite useful.
Okay, so this one.
Yep.
So I think I've really said this before, but the year 5s and 6s in this study would have been moving up to secondary school very soon. So that's why it kind of applies to secondary schools. And as you can see with those diagrams, it only falls through secondary school, it doesn't increase. So it's a really kind of important issue to tackle. So I'll pass over to Joan.
No, well, only that for the network, as well as having student surveys which give us data, we'll also be asking. We've had one round where we've asked staff to fill just one questionnaire about policies and practice around health within school, and from that questionnaire from 2014, there was it said. Schools, there were 40% of schools had a breakfast club offered to all students all year round. Now, that seemed a little higher, and we've in the next round of school environment questionnaires, which I'm going to talk about at the end, we do wonder if some of that is break time provision, because I think in some schools they call that sort of breakfast, but I mean that will be interesting to look at that comparison. But I think there are schools that either offer breakfast, maybe, well, certainly that they'd have to pay for possibly, or that there might be some free breakfast for either all students or but just for some targeted students. So I think that's, it's one to look at. And I mean, certainly it's very interesting to hear any comments. I noticed that Matthew's just written it, so interesting to compare the consumption of breakfast to outcomes at GCSE, where girls tend to lead, to outperform the boys. So yes, there are obviously other issues at play, aren't there? They're here, but so I mean that's certainly an interesting one for us to look at what's happening, what the picture within schools and breakfast. So so perhaps I shall now. We might just press onto the next one. So I just thought it was worthwhile just alerting people to, or just reminding people that offering breakfast in schools is not just up to a whim as to what the schools might choose to offer in terms of food. The Healthy Eating in Schools Wales measure, which has taken over from the Appetite for Life guidance, which was introduced a while ago, but this is statutory guidance now on all foods that are served in school, including those for breakfast. So there are quite there are there are foods that you need to be offering, and as I say, this is breakfast means food provided before the start of the morning session, so that's obviously what we'll be looking at, but the following foods must be available at breakfast: so milk-based drinks or yogurt, cereals that are not coated or flavoured with sugar, chocolate or cocoa powder, fruit and vegetables, and then breads and toppings, and the toppings, there's some guidance given there. Gareth Thomas, who is the Welsh Local Government Association, is the person who's leading on this. We've got his email there because he did very kindly say that if any schools or healthy schools who had any queries about breakfast or other food in schools, that we could get in touch. So we will be sending these slides, will go out to you, so they will have you'll be able to sort of follow that up. There's another question. I don't know. Did you want to read that?
So Judith Rees said, have you looked at the relationship between eating breakfast and attitudes to learning or behaviour? We didn't look at that, but I'm sure there is research out there if you wanted to look it up, and it's definitely an area that we look at in the future.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to pick up on your point before that some schools have like targeted breakfast clubs.
Yes.
So I think really the research shows that universal breakfast clubs are really kind of a better way to target individuals that are from more deprived families, because for one, they're not stigmatized, and for two, children from middle class families are likely to attend and just swap a good breakfast at home for a good breakfast at school, whereas those from deprived families will really kind of benefit from it, from having possibly a not very good breakfast or no breakfast at all to a good breakfast at school, so they'll benefit from that more.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, I mean, and if any schools, or healthy schools that know of schools that offer breakfast and have any information or anything that they'd like to share, then do, type away, or we can, talk at the end. I mean, certainly I do know that some schools are also looking at providing breakfast at exam times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think universally for all students, but is there any information on whether that's something that would be helpful?
No, but obviously this research kind of supports that in the fact that it will hopefully improve their concentration throughout the exams.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Do any of you on the line kind of do that or have breakfast clubs at all?
Yeah. So we'll yes, if we keep I think we'll be opening it up for general discussion anyway, but if there are any points anybody wants to make, yes. Right. Okay. So Matthew does provide prior to external secondary exams. So is that something you've been running for a while, Matthew? Perhaps if we, I don't know whether you want to speak or if we want to keep typing, because the next slide is any questions, and then Mike's going to open up the microphones. So yes, so if anybody would like to ask a question, it's the interact and hands up, and then Mike can free your microphone.
So Matthew's been doing that for the last 2 years. Have you noticed any improvements in results or concentration in class? Or is it is it well received?
Yeah. So obviously there's some interesting points there that are coming up, so that we can. We can certainly pick up on those. Sorry, I don't want to feel, Matthew, that everybody's putting you on the spot. But yeah, it's certainly seems to be something that secondary schools are beginning to do, and Matthew has responded, so I've noticed that the revision class uptake is much higher with breakfast provided. Well, that's
I can imagine
a double whammy then, isn't it? So that's very good. And yeah, so there's another, Catherine has also started providing breakfast.
It seems to be quite popular.
Yes, it does, because I guess it's a sort of manageable amount of time as well, and there would be some sort of encouragement for young people to start to think of breakfast as linking to doing it well. Yeah.
So Matt does it too.
So well received, and we had a last minute revision session. Right.
That's improved attendance.
Well, and also, yes, and I'm guessing that you know that the students are in, because I know that in some schools, they sort of come, perhaps if you know they're there, so you don't have to go and chase to make sure that they attend. So it does seem to have lots of benefits, both for food purposes, but also for others too. Yeah. All right, yes, and Judith too. So
Judith says her last year's results had improved. So obviously, that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's certainly something that perhaps we should be looking at. So that's great. Well, we're going to leave those. So Gillian, interesting overlap with possible energy drinks research too, if that's what some students have. Yes, no, because actually our schools on the network have we feed back obviously the data on energy drinks, and that does find that that seems to be of an interest to schools. Yeah. So yes, I presume that was in your not so healthy choices for breakfast. And Matt agrees that. So there's an interesting start of discussion. Well, I think what I'm going to do, just looking at the time, is we could pick up. Oh yes.
Do you know whether the government will consider funding
the $1 million question?
Well, that's the ultimate aim, I guess, from doing this kind of research, is to influence policy. But obviously, at the moment, there isn't enough. So, hopefully in the future, if we do some kind of study in secondary schools, it could affect the decisions.
No, that's right. Yeah. Yes, because the network, Welsh Government are partners on our network, so obviously they would have access, obviously, to your findings, wouldn't they, and anything else that we do. So so there's a movement ahead, steam to have a look at that. So I think we can, if other people want to keep commenting, that's absolutely fine. I thought I would just take the opportunity to thank Hannah very much so far, because there might be other questions that people want answered, but I thought perhaps I could just share a bit of network news, just as it's good to have access to people to do that, but we'll just keep an eye on any points that are raised. So we mentioned the data that we've got from the last school environment questionnaire, just to say that we are every 2-year cycle. There'll be the student survey, and then one school environment questionnaire to be answered by one member of the school staff, the link to us or senior management, or in discussion with other staff. And that's about school policies and practice, because obviously the link between what the students are saying and though that sort of information can be very, very vital in any research. So I just wanted to say, in the next few weeks, the questionnaire will be sent to you, and whenever it arrives, it will be open for a full month. So we're hoping that all schools on the network will be able to fill that data in, because it has just great benefits to research. So just to move on. again, and this is either for schools or for Healthy Schools or NQA verifiers who are out supporting schools and going to schools. We're really keen to let those on the network know how other schools are using their student health and wellbeing reports that will be with you later around Easter time. And we do hope that within our termly newsletter we'll be able to share that, and we could share in a webinar or on the website. So if there's anything that you'd like us to write about or to comment to look at, please do keep us in touch. Just contact me by phone or by email, and then we can follow that up. Just another thing, certificates and logo, just to say that Estyn are interested if schools are on the network. So if you make sure that your certificate, we've sent certificates, but we can send them more to original schools, and logos can be on websites or on your headed paper. So just make sure if you want those that you get in touch with us. And then I think what I'd like to plug, which we've been sending out ever since September, because the schools at our summer event said that they'd like dates in the diary. So webinar dates we've been putting in. So we will have another webinar in the summer, Wednesday the 27th of April. The title's to be confirmed, but it'll be the same timing and the same approach. And then we are able once a year to get people together, and we do it in North Wales and sort of Southwest Wales. And it's an opportunity to network, share good practice, and obviously for us to sort of do that link with research, as we're also doing through the webinar. So if you're in North Wales, Thursday the 16th of June is the date for your diary in Llandudno, and if you're in South or West Wales, Thursday the 23rd of June in South West Wales, and that's going to be in Merthyr this year. So just make a note of those. And just finally, we're very keen to get your views on webinars and the way we might use those. And there is a very short evaluation. Just take a couple of minutes. So if there are any other comments or any other thoughts, this is your moment. But otherwise, as I say, that will close. But before I do that, I just really want to thank Hannah for giving us lots of food for thought in terms of your breakfast study, and it looks like that might be something we'll be looking to go forward and in discussions with schools and policymakers and other researchers. So I don't think there's been many more comments. So can I just say thank you so much for joining us, and we've given you a little 5 minutes free time. So and we've had a few thank yous. Oh yes, Matt. Yes. The recording will be available, and you can share it with others. What we'll do is it's being recorded as we speak, and then that will go up onto the our website. So we'll email you all out to say when that's there, and then you can use that to share with schools or as part of training. What I would like to say is that in the previous newsletter that we sent out, because we send those every term, I noticed Helen's joined us from Llanfyllin, and she very kindly shared some of the ways that they use the webinar to then sort of get information that some of the staff see, but then to share that information with lots of other staff. So we hope it will become increasingly more useful and helpful to you. So thank you very much for joining us, and so we will see you in April then. Okay, bye then. Thank you.